Om Tavakatam Ritam Taptajivanam Kavipiritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvinranantiye Bhurida Janaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poet-seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears. Cleanser of all sins is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Oh, good evening, friends. We are continuing with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are near the top of page 142. Last time we met, Sri Ramakrishna was talking about spiritual teacher having the authority to teach. And so he mentions that one should have the command from God to be able to teach. And so we will continue. He's going to give an example. He says, at Kamarpukur, there is a small lake called the Halardpukur. Certain people used to befoul its banks every day. Others who came there in the morning to bathe would abuse the offenders loudly. But next morning, they would find the same thing. The nuisance didn't stop, and everybody laughs. The villagers finally informed the authorities about it. A constable was sent, who put up a notice on the bank, which read, "Commit no nuisance." This stopped the miscreants at once. All laugh. So here, the constable has a badge of authority to put up a sign and to control any nuisance, any crime. He has the authority. A person in the neighborhood would, if they complained to the miscreants, would just be laughed at and disregarded. So he continues, to teach others, one must have a badge of authority. Otherwise, teaching becomes a mockery. A man who is himself ignorant starts out to teach others, like the blind leading the blind. Instead of doing good, such teaching does harm. After the realization of God, one obtains an inner vision. Only then can one diagnose a person's spiritual malady and give instruction. So here, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that when one has realized God, one can understand the spiritual potential or what things might be what a spiritual aspirant needs to work on in order to progress spiritually. Sri Ramakrishna has mentioned several times in the Gospel that when a new person would come to the temple, he could see their spiritual potential and their spiritual ideal as if he were looking through a glass case. So when one has realized God, one, or has become significantly, well, here he's using the term realizing God, experiencing God, one is capable of really solving a person's spiritual difficulties, as opposed to someone who has read all the scriptures and has read all kinds of letters or conversations between spiritual advanced people giving instruction, as opposed to someone having direct experience. So you might come to a person and say, well, I have difficulty meditating. Well, a normal spiritual teacher would just say, well, try this, try that. These are the common reasons that one might have problem meditating. But for one that has actually realized God, when you come in with that question, he will give the correct answer without any guessing, because he understands the difficulty that you have personally. It'll be a one-on-one instruction. It will not be a instruction that you give as general advice. Because it might well be that you are already spiritually advanced, and the solution is not going to be a generic answer. Vice versa, you could also be quite spiritually not advanced, and perhaps meditation at this point is not the right thing for you, but rather working to purify the heart, working unselfishly, and just doing japa instead as a preliminary instruction. Meditation is something that will develop and come later. So when one has the real authority to give such spiritual instruction, they know what to say in the fewest words possible, and it will be to the point. You can imagine if you were trying to get a car repaired, and you're going on YouTube and trying to check out all the symptoms that you have, that your car has. You'll spend days, weeks probably trying to diagnose that car. But if you took it to a real mechanic, sure, you might have to spend some money, but within 1 hour, they could probably tell you what is wrong with the car through diagnostics. However, there are mechanics that just by hearing the sound of the engine, by feeling the vibrations of the engine, by the smell of the exhaust, they will tell you what is wrong. That will apply to gas engines, of course, and probably not the computer-controlled engines that they have nowadays. But back in the earlier days, a mechanic, just by the sound of an engine, could tell you what is wrong with it. And that comes from years of experience. And he will probably diagnose it correctly without all the other diagnostics, because he has the experience. Just as a person that has realized God has meditated for years, has gone through all the obstacles. So when he sees someone else suffering or experience some difficulty, he knows what to do. Same as with a coach watching an athlete. They will watch the technique, and if there's something wrong in the body mechanics that will affect your motion, so really only the coach will be able to diagnose that right then and there and tell you what to do correctly. So again, they have the badge of authority to speak on their particular topic. So also in spiritual life. So without this commission from God, a man becomes vain. He says to himself, I am teaching people. This vanity comes from ignorance, for only an ignorant person feels that he is a doer. The other part is also true, that one that has the commission of God to teach, he will do so with the utmost humility, because he will feel that, wow, who am I to teach? Whatever I can say can only be the words of God. He does not feel that he himself is doing the teaching, but the teachings are coming through him, from God, through him. Because he cannot say anything that is ego-based. I this, I that. When Sri Ramakrishna would give any teachings, he would always refer to himself as this. So he would not say, I'm doing this. He would say, well, this is saying this, or this is that. But when he's doing this, he's pointing to God, the God divinity within him, because he himself has no body consciousness that he is the one expressing these ideas. These are the words of God, and he's just vocalizing them. He has no sense of body consciousness, no sense of I-ness or doership. So he does not even feel he is a doer. He feels it is the Divine Mother saying these things, giving these instructions, revealing these truths. And this vanity comes from ignorance, for only an ignorant person feels that he is a doer. How often do we execute some action and we feel it is us doing it? If I am trying to teach something, some course or something to someone, well, I feel like I'm the one that has to study for it. I'm the one that's reviewing the material. I'm trying to explain something to another person. I feel that I am the doer. I am the teacher. But if I feel that, but there also comes a point where even such a teacher does not feel they are the teacher. They are feeling they are expressing truths of about their science, and so they are only thinking that they are explaining these theories, and these are the theories. These are all higher thoughts that basically make one unaware of their body, their mind. They are just expressing these ideas as deeply as they have understood them and experienced them through experiments or through theory, through their deep understanding. So even they will feel humbled. A mathematician, a world-class mathematician, even a musician, a world-class musician, feels humbled in front of the music that they're playing. They do not have this sense of I consciousness. All they feel is expression of the music, expression of these theoretical ideas. So that sense of I-ness, although not completely eliminated, gets quite reduced, quite suppressed. A man verily becomes liberated in life if he feels God is the doer. He alone is doing everything. I am doing nothing. Man's sufferings and worries spring only from his persistent thought that he is the doer. Every time we think that we are the ones doing something, we are also having expectations of praise. We don't want the blame, but we get the blame. Nothing is all praise, all blame. Whenever we are doing something, we should then feel that it is an offering to God. We are doing a job, a task to the best of our ability, but we release the fruits of those actions to God. We don't try to hold that to ourselves. The more we hold into ourselves, the more we bear the burden of the praise, the blame, the responsibility. And so Sri Ramakrishna is going to go on and discuss this. And now he's speaking to the Brahmo Samaj in particular. You people speak of doing good to the world. Is the world such a small thing? And who are you, pray, to do good to the world? First, realize God, see Him by means of spiritual discipline. If He imparts power, then you can do good to others, otherwise not. So when He says He imparts power, then you can do good to then you can do good to others, otherwise not. What kind of good is he talking about? Well, he's talking about doing real good, not superficial good. Superficial good is, oh, I'm giving food to the food bank, I'm doing this, I'm helping so-and-so. But you're not doing that without ego. You're not doing that without expecting results, or return, or expecting some, even feeling good about yourself doing those things. By real good means complete selflessness. You're not thinking about yourself, but you are just doing something that feels like the right thing to do. And you may suffer for it, but you're doing it because it's like the right thing to do, irrespective of what the results will be. So a Brahmo devotee is asking, then, sir, must we give up our activities until we realize God? The Master, no, why should you? You must engage in such activities as contemplation, singing his praises, and other daily devotions. So the Brahmo devotee is not satisfied with that answer, because that is really, from his point of view, no answer for a worldly person. So he asks, but what about our worldly duties? Duties associated with our earning money and so on? The Master is replying, yes, you can perform them too, but only as much as you need for your livelihood. At the same time, you must pray to God in solitude, with tears in your eyes, that you may be able to perform those duties in an unselfish manner. You should say to him, O God, make my worldly duties fewer and fewer. Otherwise, O Lord, I find that I forget thee when I am involved in too many activities. I may think I am doing unselfish work, but it turns out to be selfish. People who carry to excess the giving of alms or the distribution of food among the poor fall victims to the desire of acquiring name and fame. So here, throughout the Gospel, Swami Nikhilananda has often said that one should realize God and then work in the world. And as we read that as devotees or as even practical people, we wonder, well, how is that possible? We have to still survive, and we can't all just sit and meditate, realize God, and then go and work unselfishly in the world. So here, he's saying, yes, work in the world, but don't go into excess. So now, you want to work and only to acquire what is needed for you to survive, but not take more. So is it okay to ask for raises and things like that? Well, with more raises also comes more responsibility. With that becomes more headache, more duties. So then the question becomes how to manage all this in a practical sense. Now, Swami Krishna is speaking here of how India was back in the day, where you're not, here you have to spend so much more time just for basic sustenance, more time, more money, that the idea of even thinking about God and those kind of things, spiritual life, are probably very short periods of time, if you can even manage to do so with concentration, because you'll be worrying about one thing or the other. So then the trick becomes, well, how does one work like this in a world like today? And that's where it becomes almost crucial to whatever small things you do, whatever work you do not try to offer them to God as you're doing them on a regular basis, as a way of spiritualizing your day-to-day activities. Because if you save it all toward the end of the day, by then you're probably too exhausted, forgetful, and there'll always be the next thing that will come in, next distraction. So it's almost like this is something you're going to have to do, and remember to do it repeatedly throughout the day, almost as developing a habit. And then together with that, incorporate prayer. Yes, pray to reduce your duties. But there also is another way of interpreting that. Because some people say, oh, pray to God to reduce one's duties. By that, it's because they feel overwhelmed with so many things, so they think, oh, just reduce the duties of my daily life. But the other way of looking at it is, the more things we offer to God, the less we feel their burden on us. So yes, we may still have all those duties that we have to do throughout the day, but by offering them to God and offering the fruits of that labor to God, we are also relinquishing them. We're not attaching themselves to us, so they don't have the same burden as if we were attached to them and felt that we are compelled to do them. So then by so doing, we feel that we also end up working more efficiently. They don't have the same burden on us, and we feel that, well, I'm still doing the same things, but they don't have the same mental weight anymore. So in a sense, that's also reducing, our duties are being reduced. So that's another interpretation of that statement. And then over time, of course, as our lives are always changing, we change jobs, responsibilities differ, children grow up, leave home. Then we notice that we have more time. By then we have also conditioned our mind to thinking on more higher terms, more spiritualizing our lives. And so then we decide, well, now I have some time to think about God, some time to meditate, go take some time off, some time of solitude, and pray to God with more yearning. And then he says, people who carry to excess the giving of alms or the distribution of food among the poor fall victims to the desire of acquiring name and fame. So in this process of trying to spiritualize our lives, we may feel we want to become less selfish. We want to do volunteer work. We want to donate things. But because we have not really developed our spiritual life very well, we're still in that stage of being like a child, not much experience. So we don't quite know how to handle. We get over-enthused, or maybe it feels good to give things, but in the process of that, we feel that, oh, you want to be thanked for it, or we want appreciation, we want somebody to recognize our giving. We want our plaque on the wall that says, oh, I've given $10,000, so-and-so has given $10,000. And if it's not there, we feel disappointed and decide, no, that it's not worth it to donate to that organization or help those people. We are not getting any recognition. So that we're overdoing it. So, and by overdoing it, it's also inflating our ego. So we have to learn to balance it between doing our normal duty, give unselfishly, but not with the expectation of results. And the more we can do that, then we also become capable of giving more, because we understand, it's not worth it to be always designed to be thanked or get appreciation or have a plaque on the wall. So these things become less significant because you also feel humbled. You feel that it's your privilege to serve, to give. And so you don't want the recognition. And maybe you really don't want the recognition because if people realize you're giving such great big donations, they're going to come to you for money. So you might want to be able to protect yourself that way by, okay, give anonymously, that kind of thing. Then really nobody will thank you. So now he's going to tell a story. Sambhu Malik, it's actually one of Swami Krishna's devotees, once talked about establishing hospitals, dispensaries, and schools, making roads, digging public reservoirs, and so forth. I said to him, don't go out of your way to look for such works. Undertake only those works that present themselves to you and are of pressing necessity, and those also in a spirit of detachment. It is not good to become involved in many activities. That makes one forget God. Coming to the Kaligat temple, some perhaps spend their whole time in giving alms to the poor. They have no time to see the mother in the inner shrine. And then there's laughter. First of all, somehow manage to see the image of the Divine Mother, then even by pushing through the crowd. Then you may or may not give alms as you wish. You may give to the poor to your heart's content if you feel that way. Work is only a means to the realization of God. Therefore I said to Sambhu, suppose God appears before you, then will you ask him to build hospitals and dispensaries for you? And there's laughter. A lover of God never says that. He will rather say, O Lord, give me a place at thy lotus feet. Keep me always in thy company. Give me sincere and pure love for thee. So even in the beginning, we may not realize God and then be able to perform our actions completely selflessly. But here he's saying, try to see the Divine Mother in the inner shrine, and then give alms. Well, here he's just saying, really, try to remember God before you do anything, before you do any action. The same when you think about eating, we say Brahmarpanam, we say grace. We say something that reminds us of God before we partake of food, before we engage in some action. Think about God first, instead of yourself doing the action. Remind yourself about God, and then perform some action, selflessly, or whether it's something related to your daily work or your other activities around the house or home. So as a way of saying, well, God, I'm going to be doing such and such, and I want to offer it to you. Look at this picture when you say that, or a picture of some deity or divine or some spiritual ideal. And then go forth and then perform such action. And then when you're done, also think about God. Offer the fruits of that labor to God. In other words, always try to connect everything you're doing with some remembrance of God or your spiritual ideal. That way you won't feel that you're being overwhelmed by so many other activities that will make you forget God. Just as Sri Ramakrishna has told the Brahma devotees earlier, that pray to God to reduce your activities because you feel that you are forgetting God. So these are some very good hints and tips that we should keep in mind, and even reread these sections when you have time. Even throughout the day, just read just what I've just read, this paragraph or a couple of paragraphs, to remind you how to carry out your day. So I will stop there for today, and I will give you a few announcements. This Friday, Swami Nikhilananda will speak on the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and he will begin with Purna Chandra Ghosh. And on Sunday, he will give a talk on connecting with the divine. And also we will be having Ramnam this Sunday. And I should not forget that tomorrow night, Swami Brahmatmananda, who is residing at our Tapovan retreat, will be giving an online class on about Toward the Goal Supreme. That is done through Google Meet, and those of you who have signed up for notifications, that link will be in the email. So thank you very much for coming and for attending online. I will conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanakampa Tritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesametyam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna, who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace, peace to all beings.